Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Nick Bull winning via stoppage in what I believe was round 10 to remain WBA Featherweight World Champion. He did this out in Liverpool, homecoming type fight yet again against Doheny, and it was an interesting contest. I mean, it had kind of a standout moment which nobody ever expected, and I mean, in boxing it was surprised that it was even allowed. Nick Bull, at the end of the first round, it was, to begin with, a fiery build-up in the weigh-in and the press conference, and so you kind of expected there may be bits of times where there wasn't going to be respect between the two of them, and it looked like there was a bit of needle there, but I didn't expect there to have TJ Doheny literally having Nick Bull in a headlock for then Nick Bull to then just go and kick him in the arse or knee him in the bum or whatever. It was just a bit of a weird one, and I mean, I'm surprised the ref didn't do a bit more, to be honest. The ref kind of just came and pulled them both aside and kind of just said, you can't have him in a headlock, you can't kick him. It was just, a strange one how he was able to get away with it. But then, when the fight progressed and everything like that, there was a few times in which Doheny had success and was, looking quite good at points. And there was times in which perhaps, Nick Bull was just able to run away with it. I mean, there was a couple of rounds in which Doheny looked good. He was timing him quite well at times. He looked maybe a bit stronger than what I thought he would look. I obviously predicted that he would get stopped a lot earlier, but obviously he didn't. But for the most part, he looked quite strong at times. I mean, a lot of his body language is quite negative in general. I feel like at this point in his career, that's just the way that he fights. It was the same against Ionute. I'm surprised refs don't kind of jump in prematurely when watching him fight, because he doesn't ever really put on the best of body languages. He always looks quite negative and he's kind of staggering around a little bit, but then he can time a shot, and even though he is fighting off the back foot, he can still have success. And so, there was a few times in which Nick Bull got caught. I feel like always defensively there has been weaknesses in Nick Bull's game, but I suppose that's why I did kind of touch upon that. I did say Ionute beat Doheny well, and beat him well because he was trying to be a bit more defensively sound and not get caught as much as what, somebody like a Nick Bull didn't really care about getting caught. Nick Bull showed a bit more in this fight than what we have seen from him in the past. He showed that he can box decently. He resorted back to his aggressive old school ways, which I feel like is very important for him to keep, because yes, these might be a bit defensively unsafe, but it's what makes him a really good fighter, what makes him unique, what makes him a really big threat, the fact that he can do what he does so aggressively. But, for the most part, it was an excellent performance, and in the end, he was able to get Doheny out of there. I was wondering, perhaps Doheny would be able to survive to the end of the fight, but obviously when it got to round 10 and he was staggering back to his corner again, it was kind of the time of, do you really want to see him take any more punishment? Is it really necessary to see him take any more punishment? Because he had taken quite a lot, and you did have to feel for him a little bit, but he didn't seem to retire from what I believe, so maybe he's still wanting to have another fight or two. We'll have to wait and see, but still, Nick Bull moves on, probably now to another big fight. I mean, we've seen Ionute kind of comment upon the kick, and then Nick Bull's kind of said, do you want to kick it up at featherweight? And then Inue's kind of responded saying he doesn't really want to fight against somebody who's a kicker. But, there's a little bit of a back and forth, and this is the first time that we've seen Inoue kind of go back and forth with anybody. Maybe this is because, he sees there being an interesting fight down the line, and he hasn't really gone back and forth with any of the other featherweight champions. He hasn't even really gone back and forth with like an Ahmed Aliev, even though that fight's been talked about a lot. So it's intriguing to see why he's chosen Nick Bull to go and have a bit of a Twitter back and forth with. But still, that is actually creating a hype for a really good fight. Hopefully we'll see it at some point, but I don't believe it will be next. It probably won't be till probably next year if we ever see it, to be honest, because it seems like His Excellency has still some big plans that might include a Junto Nakatani fight at the end of this year before we see a Nick Ball type contest. So we still might have to wait a while for that. But for the moment, now he's had a very good performance. There's still other fights in which he could still go on to have. I would still like to see a Ray Vargas rematch. But there's still, again, plenty of other options as well. But to go about and talk about some of the other cards, some of the other fights on this card, we saw Baluta get a controversial win versus Brad Strand, a win which, I got my prediction right for it. I said that he'd win via decision and be able to nick it, but it was a controversial one. He wasn't landing that clearly, and it was quite scrappy. Brad Strand was getting better at the work. There was a knockdown slip that got called a knockdown. He was quite fortunate to get the decision, Baluta, but again, he's had times in which them kind of wins and results have gone against him, Baluta. So, not saying that makes it right, but it's just maybe the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. When he beat Andrew Cain, it was again a bit of a controversial one as well. So he has had a few controversial fights throughout his career, and again, sometimes going in his favour, sometimes not. But that one did, and possibly we'll see a rematch next of that. Again, moving on, Javier Herrera, got a good win. Just doing a little cool little dance afterwards. He's an interesting character. He's getting himself in a good world ranking position. Will he be fighting a Shakur Stevenson anytime soon? You never know. He's just fought Josh Padley Stevenson, so you do never really know. But I doubt it. It probably will be a few more fights. I would like to see him maybe try and headline some sort of an event somewhere, maybe in his home country, before he can go and get a big fight. But you never really know. Andrew Cain, that was a very strange contest as well against Charlie Edwards. Charlie was just continually on the back foot, just backing off, running around. Credit to him, the cardio for him to be able to do that for the entire fight. But yeah, it was just weird. He just didn't want to engage at all. He really did respect Andrew Cain's power a lot, which you have to, because Andrew Cain is very good and very powerful. But Andrew Cain really relied on his head movement and made Charlie Edwards look quite silly at times. But at the same time, just when you kind of thought that Andrew Cain would be kind of going ahead with it and just willing away with it, Charlie Edwards came and maybe had a few bits of success into the later rounds, but still wasn't enough to get the win. It was a very close fight. Again, maybe you could argue that it was a draw. I maybe had kind of one round to Andrew Cain, but again, another very close fight. And then Jack Turner as well, putting on another excellent stoppage victory against Ryan Farrag. Second round, I believe, knockout. Great performance for himself, and he is looking like an excellent talent. Again, just having that kind of, like he's touched upon, God-given type power, where he just doesn't look like the most powerful of guys, but he just really can deliver brutal stoppages consecutively, and it's becoming a very impressive thing, and a thing that fans are becoming to expect when we kind of watch him fight. And it's going to be very intriguing how we progress him along and how we see him progress along in the rest of his career. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Just a little breakdown of the card. It was a very good Queensbridge card, and they've been delivering quite a lot on these cards as of recent. But yeah, that is it. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video. Subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.